What if I told you that most women spend their entire lives becoming someone they were taught to be, rather than discovering who they truly are? Think about it for a moment. Before a girl is old enough to understand herself, the world has already begun telling her who she should become. Parents have expectations. Teachers have expectations. Society has expectations. Culture has expectations. Long before she develops her own identity, she inherits countless messages about what it means to be a woman. Be beautiful, be desirable, be nurturing, be successful, be independent, be strong, but not too strong, be confident, but not intimidating, be authentic, but make sure everyone approves. And somewhere beneath all those expectations, a dangerous question begins to emerge. Where does the real woman end? And the social programming begin? Because if you've ever wondered why some women seem impossible to understand, why they can sense deception before evidence exists, why they remember emotional wounds for years, why they stay too long in relationships that hurt them yet, sometimes walk away from relationships that appeared perfectly fine, why they crave connection but fear vulnerability, why they seek freedom yet still long to be chosen, then you're not alone. At first glance, these contradictions seem confusing, sometimes even irrational. But what if they are not contradictions at all? What if they are clues? Clues pointing toward a deeper psychological reality that most people never see. A reality shaped by biology, evolution, relationships, love, fear, survival, culture, and centuries of social conditioning. For centuries, philosophers, psychologists, historians, and scientists have tried to answer one question: what truly shapes the female mind? Carl Jung believed much of human behavior is driven by unconscious forces, hidden beneath awareness. Sigmund Freud believed our deepest motivations often originate from desires and wounds we barely understand. Alfred Adler argued that many of our choices are shaped by hidden feelings of inferiority and the desire to overcome them. Erich Fromm believed society quietly teaches people what to desire, what to value, and even who they should become. And modern psychology has revealed something equally fascinating. Many of the forces influencing women's decisions today are operating beneath conscious awareness, which means the story most people tell about women is often incomplete. Because female psychology is not merely about attraction. It is not merely about emotions. It is not merely about relationships. It is about identity. And perhaps that is where the real mystery begins. Because beneath every woman exists two versions of herself. The woman she truly is, and the woman the world rewards her for becoming. The question is, how often are those two people the same? From childhood, girls learn something powerful. Acceptance often comes with conditions. The creative girl learns to tone herself down because originality attracts criticism. The outspoken girl learns to be careful because confidence can make others uncomfortable. The sensitive girl learns to hide vulnerability because vulnerability can be mistaken for weakness. The ambitious girl learns that success may attract admiration from some people and resentment from others. And little by little, a mask begins to form. Carl Jung called this mask the persona, the socially acceptable self, the version of ourselves designed to gain approval, belonging, and acceptance. The persona is not necessarily fake. In fact, it serves an important purpose. It helps us navigate society. But Jung warned about something dangerous. Many people become so attached to the mask that they lose contact with the person underneath it. They spend years perfecting an identity that earns admiration from others while quietly abandoning the parts of themselves that make them unique. And perhaps nowhere is this more visible than in the lives of modern women, because today's woman is often expected to be everything at once: beautiful, independent, successful, feminine, powerful, compassionate, ambitious, desirable, selfless, confident, available, authentic. The list never ends. And this psychological pressure becomes enormous. Imagine hearing contradictory messages every day for years. Be attractive, but don't seek attention. Be independent, but don't intimidate men. Build a career, but don't neglect relationships. Be nurturing, but don't become dependent. Be strong, but stay soft. Be confident, but remain humble. The modern woman is often trying to satisfy expectations that directly conflict with one another. And eventually she begins asking herself a question that grows louder with time. Which version of me is actually mine? The one I want to be, or the one society rewards? This question becomes even more complicated in the age of social media. For most of human history, women compared themselves to people they actually knew. Family, friends, neighbors, community members. Today, a woman can compare herself to millions of people she has never met. Every day, every hour, every scroll. She sees beauty, success, luxury, confidence, relationships, perfection, or at least the appearance of perfection. And something subtle begins to happen. The comparison starts quietly, then gradually becomes constant. She no longer asks, who am I becoming? She begins asking, how do I compare? And comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy peace. Because someone will always appear more beautiful, more successful, more admired, more desired, more accomplished, more influential. The game never ends. Yet women often experience this pressure with particular intensity because female identity has historically been tied to social evaluation. How she looks, how she behaves, how she is perceived, how she is valued by others. And over time, identity slowly begins shifting from authenticity to performance. People stop living and start performing. They perform happiness, perform confidence, perform success, perform relationships, perform fulfillment, until one day they wake up and realize something terrifying. They have spent years perfecting an image while neglecting the person behind it. And that may be one of the deepest psychological struggles facing modern women today. Not discovering how to become more successful, not discovering how to become more attractive, but discovering who they are beneath the expectations, beneath the comparisons, beneath the programming, beneath the mask. Because the female mind is not simply a collection of emotions. It is a battlefield where biology, culture, relationships, identity, desire, fear, and social conditioning constantly compete for influence. And to understand women, we must first understand those invisible forces. Because only then can we begin answering the question that has puzzled humanity for centuries. What does a woman truly want? And perhaps the answer is far simpler than most people imagine. Not perfection, not endless validation, not constant admiration, but something much deeper, something profoundly human. To be understood, to be valued, to be seen not for the mask, but for the person underneath it. And perhaps that is where the real story begins. The truth is that women are among the most misunderstood people in human history. Men often misunderstand women. Women often misunderstand themselves. Society reduces women to stereotypes. Some claim women are emotional, others claim they are mysterious. Some say they are complicated, others say they are impossible to understand. But perhaps the real problem is that most people are looking at female behavior without understanding the invisible forces underneath it. Carl Jung believed that beneath every human being lies an unseen psychological world. A world of hidden desires, fears, instincts, wounds, dreams, and unconscious patterns. And nowhere is this more evident than in the lives of modern women. Because while society has changed dramatically over the last century, the human mind is still carrying psychological patterns that evolved over thousands of years. Consider this. For most of human history, a woman's survival depended heavily on her ability to understand people. She needed to identify loyalty from deception, commitment from manipulation, safety from danger, trustworthiness from performance. Long before modern technology existed, reading human behavior was a survival skill. And perhaps that is why many women pay extraordinary attention to emotional details that others overlook. Have you ever had a conversation with a woman who remembered not just what was said, but how it was said, the tone, the facial expression, the emotional atmosphere in the room? Years later, she may forget the exact words, but she remembers precisely how that moment made her feel. Many men find this confusing. They ask, why can't she just let it go? But the female mind is often not remembering the event itself. It is remembering the emotional significance attached to it. The betrayal, the rejection, the disappointment, the feeling. And feelings often leave deeper footprints than facts. This is one reason emotional safety matters so much to many women. Contrary to popular belief, emotional safety is not a weakness. It is not dependency. It is not fragility. Emotional safety is the foundation upon which trust is built. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she becomes more authentic, more expressive, more vulnerable, more open. But when that safety is threatened, something changes. She becomes guarded, defensive, reserved, not because she wants to push people away, but because the mind naturally protects what it perceives as vulnerable. One of the most misunderstood aspects of female psychology is intuition. People often speak about female intuition as if it were some mystical force, but modern psychology offers a more grounded explanation. What we call intuition is often unconscious pattern recognition. The brain notices hundreds of small details before conscious awareness catches up. A slight change in behavior, a delayed response, a shift in energy, a contradiction between words and actions. The conscious mind may miss it, but the unconscious mind notices everything. This is why many women have experienced moments where they could not explain why. Something felt wrong, only to discover later that their instincts were correct. Yet intuition has a shadow side. Not every feeling is wisdom. Sometimes intuition is insight. Sometimes it is fear disguised as insight. Sometimes it is experience. Sometimes it is anxiety. Learning the difference is one of the most important forms of self-awareness a woman can develop because feelings are signals. They are not always facts. Perhaps nowhere is female psychology more visible than in relationships. Many women do not simply evaluate who a person is. They evaluate who that person could become. They see potential, possibility, growth, transformation. This can be beautiful. It can inspire people to become better versions of themselves. But it can also become a source of heartbreak, because one of the greatest tragedies in relationships is falling in love with potential instead of reality. Many women have found themselves trapped in relationships, not because of who a man was, but because of who they imagined he could become. They saw the future version, the healed version, the ambitious version, the responsible version, and they waited, they sacrificed, they believed, sometimes for years, only to discover that potential is not reality. Possibility is not a character, and hope cannot substitute for action. This is one reason many women stay longer than they should. They remember the good moments, the promises, the dreams, the future they imagined together. They fight for possibilities that may never arrive. And while loyalty can be a beautiful quality, loyalty without wisdom can become self-destruction. The modern world has complicated female psychology even further. Never before in human history has a woman faced the psychological pressures that women face today. For thousands of years, women compared themselves to family members, neighbors, and local communities. Today, they compare themselves to millions of carefully curated lives displayed on screens every day. The human brain was never designed for this. Social media has created what psychologists might call an attention economy. For the first time in history, attention has become a form of currency. A photograph can generate validation from hundreds or even thousands of strangers. Compliments arrive instantly. Approval arrives instantly. Recognition arrives instantly. And the dangerous part is that attention feels remarkably similar to value. But attention and value are not the same thing. A woman can receive endless attention and still feel deeply insecure. She can receive admiration and still feel unseen. She can receive validation and still feel empty. Because attention satisfies the ego temporarily, but it rarely nourishes the deeper human need for meaning, connection and self-worth. Yet many people unknowingly begin measuring their value through visibility. They stop asking, "Who am I?" and begin asking, "How am I perceived?" Carl Jung would likely argue that social media has become a machine for manufacturing what he called the persona, the mask, the public identity, the version of ourselves designed to earn approval. Women today are often told to be beautiful, successful, independent, nurturing, ambitious, confident, desirable, and emotionally available all at the same time. The pressure is overwhelming because many of these expectations contradict one another. Imagine being told every day, be strong but stay soft. Be independent but don't intimidate people. Build a career but make time for everyone. Be attractive but don't seek attention. Be ambitious but remain humble. Be authentic but maintain your image. Wouldn't you become confused too? Perhaps this is why so many modern women experience identity conflict. They are not simply trying to discover who they are. They are trying to separate their authentic voice from the endless noise of societal expectations. And this may be one of the greatest psychological challenges of our generation. But every strength has a shadow. Jung warned that whatever remains unconscious eventually controls behavior. Empathy can become manipulation. Loyalty can become dependent. Nurturing can become control. Sensitivity can become emotional volatility. Intuition can become a suspicion. Protection can become possessive. The goal is not to eliminate these tendencies. The goal is to become conscious of them, because awareness transforms weakness into wisdom. One of the deepest desires hidden within many women is not merely the desire to be loved. It is the desire to be understood, to feel seen beyond appearances, beyond achievements, beyond roles, beyond expectations, to feel that someone truly understands their inner world, their fears, their dreams, their struggles, their contradictions, their humanity. And perhaps this desire reveals something profound, because when we strip away all the differences between men and women, many of the deepest human needs remain the same. The need to belong, the need to matter, the need to be chosen, the need to love, the need to feel safe, the need to be understood. Maybe that is the greatest lesson hidden inside female psychology. Women are not mysteries to be solved. They are not puzzles to be decoded. They are human beings navigating a world filled with expectations, pressures, opportunities, fears, desires, and contradictions. Just like everyone else, the more women understand themselves, the less they become controlled by unconscious patterns. The more men understand women, the less they become trapped by confusion and resentment. And the more both sides understand each other, the more relationships stop becoming battlefields and start becoming places of growth. So perhaps the real question is not, why are women the way they are? Perhaps the deeper question is this: how much of who you are today truly belongs to you? How much of your identity is authentic? How much is social programming? How many of your desires are genuinely yours? And how many were quietly planted there by the world around you? Because true freedom begins the moment you become conscious of the forces shaping your life. And perhaps the greatest journey is not understanding women. Perhaps it is understanding yourself. And that may change everything. Welcome to the Conscious Chamber.